Welcome to the OnlyFans Secrets Marketing Podcast. The goal of this podcast is to help both new and established OnlyFans creators learn the basics of online branding, marketing, and promotion to help you make more money with your content and maximize your time online. My name is Richard Lewis, and I have over 20 years of internet marketing experience. So let's get started with today's topic. And that topic is why you should be charging more for your OnlyFans subscription. So as we have discussed before in this podcast, cost is a big factor in the success of any business endeavor. But what if we are thinking about price wrong? The current trend of lower and lower OnlyFans subscription prices is bad for everyone. In this podcast, we'll discuss why you should charge more for your OnlyFans subscription. So you're asking yourself, if I charge more, won't I have less subs and make less money? So this is a common thought behind pricing. Fear is what keeps people from making more money and changing their price structure. Now, we've gone over before in the podcast, ways to slowly increase your pricing so that it's not like so drastic, for your subscribers. But in this podcast, we're going to just evaluate the whole concept of price versus value and moving towards a more sustainable price that will actually make you money. So let's go over value versus price. So the concept of value, what does value mean? So according to the dictionary, value is the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. So value is how basically we regard the importance or worth or how useful something is to us. So your subscriber or potential subscriber is looking at the value of what you have to offer. And when you create a low price, it's putting into their mind that the value that they're getting is less. Because you, as the person who's creating the pricing, if you are not signifying importance and worth and usefulness, then they are going to make the assumption that it's of lower value, even if that's not true. Even if you're pricing things in the hopes of attracting more possible subscribers, it's still going to come off to someone that you are not valuing the content that you're providing. So what does price mean? So price is the amount of money expected, required, or given in payment for something. So the price is set. So it's the amount of money expected, required, or given in payment. So there's no determinant there in the term price. Price is whatever the amount is. If it's $5, it's $5. If it's $20, it's $20. But value, you see, is in regard to so much more. And so when you are pricing things, you should base them on value, not on price. You should say, okay, I'm charging this amount because this is what it should be worth. It's what it's worth to me and what I want to signify it's worth to my potential subscriber and my current subscriber. So we live in a very subjective world right now, where, a banana on a wall can be worth more than a work from the Renaissance. Something is worth what people are willing to pay for it. So if you live in a current time, in a cryptocurrency time, in a time where the government is writing out checks to people for over $1 trillion, the amounts that people are thinking in their head, oh, okay, when someone comes to me and says something is $9.99 a month, what is the real value behind that? It's very disposable. If you come in at a low price, you're going to leave at the low price. It doesn't really have much worth to you. So what you're saying with the lower price is this doesn't have much worth. You can leave it behind. You can discard it and go to the next person who's $9.99 or has discounted that even down to $4.99. And I fully understand. I've seen some wonderful creators pages who are pricing themselves at these low rates in order to get business. And I get that. But I'll continue talking in the podcast and explain, how to shift, from that and the thought process behind that. So, all right. So people gain more pleasure from what they spend more on. So there's our next concept. So people are gaining pleasure from spending more. Now, that doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's how our minds work. So we value expensive items over their cheaper counterparts. And this is called the marketing placebo effect. So again, we value expensive items over their cheaper counterparts. And that doesn't mean that they have any difference. It just means there's a difference in price. So they did a 2017 study with wine, and they hooked up an MRI to study the brain waves on the people that they did this study with. Now, the subjects were given the same wine and then told to talk about the wine. Now, the participants thought the expensive wine tasted better. They complimented it. They had more good things to say about it. It was the same wine as the inexpensive wine. Now, this was backed up with the brain scans. Now, the brain scans showed the part of the brain triggered by reward and motivation increased with higher prices. So, people feel like they are getting more and they're more motivated, reward and motivation. So, as I mentioned a little earlier, they're motivated to continue to subscribe, to continue to give their money because they are getting rewarded. And again, it's not disposable. So to them, the cheap wine, and I'm just thinking this out here, the cheap wine, they feel, okay, I can go down to the store at any point in my life and get this wine. One time I had a client through my marketing business, and he had a client that owned a mail order wine company. And he had that client send my office a wine. And I was told that this was a really, really prestigious wine. And I'll tell you, it was amazing. It was amazing wine. I never looked it up. Perhaps I had the placebo effect. I'm not sure. But I was told this was the greatest wine that you're ever going to taste. And guess what? It was the greatest wine I ever tasted. So it's possible that that really was a great wine. Or perhaps I was just, talked up to the fact that it was a great wine. But we associate higher price with higher quality. So again, we are associating, human beings associate that a high price means there's more quality to the product that you're purchasing, whether it's a subscription or it's a car or it's a house. So when people are buying houses, the higher the cost of the house, the more likely the people who are buying that house are going to see a positive outcome from purchasing the house. What they think is, if I spend more money on an item, I'm less likely to have regret. So this is all psychology, that people feel better about spending more money. So if they want to spend more money, you should give them an opportunity to do so. You shouldn't be there and say, okay, well, I'm going to have this $10 page and hope that now the people who only wanted to spend $10 are going to come onto the page and start buying high-priced paywall content. Again, that's probably not going to happen. You've got who you want in, but they're likely not to take the action you want them to. So, a question might be, why don't celebrities on OnlyFans charge higher prices? Well, I'll tell you, they used to. It was common when OnlyFans started to see $29.99, $49.99 pages. If people had any popularity off of OnlyFans, they were like, hey, here's this price. And this was before the deluge of creators came in and started lowering the prices. So they used to. And now, celebrities, they're just running high numbers games. So, they're looking at the more people, subscribe at a lower price. Again, as I mentioned in the last podcast, it's just like searching book and hoping that you're going to sell some books from a person who makes a search for book. They're just hoping for anyone who comes in who might be interested. If they come in and say, oh, okay, I'm going to have a $9.99 price, they might give it a shot. You aren't set up that way. And you're not going to be successful if you set yourself up that way. So most creators are not trying to win on a numbers game. They're trying to make money. But most creators are playing a game to lose. So few will succeed at the thousands of subs game, but everyone is aiming there. It's like setting, your target in the wrong place and then expecting it to work. So what people have to do is they have to refocus. It's not a numbers, game for most people. What it is it's a, who can I get to actually care about my page and continue to subscribe month after month concept. So some people do hit a home run and end up with 6,000 subscribers, and then they, make it $10 or $15 or $20, whatever, this low price, and heck yes, they are doing great. But for most people, that's not going to work out, and it's not a head-to-head contest. So in a lot of cases, people will lower their prices because their direct competitor has lowered theirs. So if tomorrow Netflix cut their price by 50%, it's entirely possible that Disney Plus then cuts their price, or Hulu cuts their price, because it's a direct competition concept. But on OnlyFans, that's not how things work. It's a who can get more people to like them and support them game. So there's no point in lowering the prices and continuing to low down, because there's a million other options. It's not like the example I just used, where there might be 5 or 6 total streaming services. There's millions of options. So you have to really think about the numbers and the odds. What are the chances that you're going to get 100 loyal fans as opposed to thousands of fans? Which one is more likely? Which one sounds more like the lottery? And which one sounds more like a business plan? So for some people, they are going to get 1,000 fans. And for them, a low price makes sense. But for most creators, it doesn't. So you have to look at, the odds there. And then what is, your highest chance of success? Okay, so how do you put all of this into play? So, as I've talked about before on the podcast, I believe that the best system is to hook people onto your free page, get them really interested in you, get them, interacting with you, seeing some of your content, and then after a little period of time where you feel like you've built up enough people who are interested and you see them interacting, then send them to a high-priced VIP page. I would say minimum $20 a month. Why not $49.95 if they will assume that they are missing out on something great behind that paywall? They really will. So instead of just trying to make people, because each time you're selling someone, think about this. Each time you're selling someone paywall content,